Is anybody out there?
Mark Radcliffe. 1FM. Oh, yes.
Well, good evening. Tonight, the Marks Kermode and Lamarr, plus Craig Charles reading Terry Pratchett and the Magic Roundabout, as we attempt to pick ourselves up from the weird happenings of last night. A very strange week so far. It's been a full moon and everything, and last night was the weirdest of all, because we had a live performance by a satanic monolith rockers Killing Joke, and weirdly, it was interrupted for reasons which we're still suspiciously eerily vague about, by the Primal Stones' Get Your Socks Off. And apparently part of the country got the full Killing Joke thing, and part of it got the interrupted one. We don't know. It seems to be that everybody got it apart from Bournemouth, who miss out on a lot of things. Anyway, so as not to disappoint them, we thought we would rerun this event. It's one of the weird things that's happened this week. Due to government restrictions, we're not allowed to rebroadcast the spectral incident itself. So here's a recreation of it with the parts of Jazz Coleman and Bobby Gillespie taken by actors. I told Lard to do a spoof, not the real thing. It's Sleeper and Delicious there on tour, supporting Blur, and the tour starts at Nottingham Rock City on May the 10th. Anyway, welcome to Mark Lamarr. All right, mate?
All right.
How you doing? All right.
Yeah.
You were saying you went to see them?
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Very good band.
We had them on in
That'd be a cracking double bill, then.
Yeah, it's a good value, that, isn't it? Good value. So what have you been up to then? Have you been doing anything interesting?
You know, last time I hadn't been on for a month, and you said what you've been up to, and it was nothing.
Yeah.
What do you expect in a week?
Right, yeah.
Basically.
Negligible, isn't it, really? A sad life like the rest of us. But, I mean, you've done a gig, anyway. You've done this...
I've done half a dozen gigs. I was at the Comedy Store all weekend, and then I did this big Terence Higgins benefit on
what was that
Sunday.
called again? Greg Proof was on... Filth, right.
Yeah, Greg was on it. It was a cracking bill. It was Blur, Sleeper.
Yeah.
No, it was Joe Brand and Eddie Izzard and Ben Elton and Raw Sex, and just most of the best comedians in the country.
Everybody's...
I wangled myself on as well, which is handy. I just said it before you'd say it.
Yeah, fine. Everybody was supposed to have 10 minutes to talk about sex, weren't they?
Yeah, but not everyone did.
No.
Because, I mean, the comedians that do sex stuff anyway will do sex stuff for an hour.
Right.
The comedians that don't just don't do it at all. So
right.
It was that kind of situation.
Do you do sex stuff in your...
No, not in bed either.
No, that's
never mind in the act.
Yeah.
You've got to have personal recollections to draw from, haven't you?
Yes, well, so you got that in before me, anyway. Anyway, that's... right, Mark Kermode, like new films we usually talk about as well, I mean...
I'm sorry, I just don't believe you just made that joke, but let's move, yes.
Oh, well, no, it's all right. I mean, he'd taken all the... Anyway, it doesn't matter. Carry on.
Yeah. No, it's a top week. Little Buddha opens on Friday.
Now, this is... I've read a lot of sort of critical analysis of this, and the consensus seems to be that it's a shed.
Well, I mean, it's very difficult, right? You know, Bernardo Bertolucci, has a good reputation to some extent. How seriously can you take a film in which Keanu Reeves is Prince Siddhartha? I mean, they've had to actually dye the man. They've actually dyed his whole body in order to turn him into Prince Siddhartha. And then he talks with this sort of very slightly weird accent, but he's the Buddha, right? It's like, Is
it like Peter Sellers in that film, that boom diddy when he plays the...
it's on about that level. It's on about that level, yeah. And we've got a cut down version of it. It's only like 2.25 hours now, and it used to be sort of like 4 days long, but the distributor said, you can't have that. You've got to take it in.
I mean, tell me something, Keanu Reeves, I mean, like, what does he do? I mean, is he an actor? I mean, rumour has it that he's supposed to be an actor.
Yeah, no, this Greg Proops said, in fact, on this very show, that when Keanu Reeves was in Point Break, between him and the surfboard came off a lot better, which I said, I'll come outside and have fisticuffs about this. Keanu Reeves is perfectly good at at certain things, right? He's perfectly good at doing the Californian airhead beach bum. He's very good at doing the Bill and Ted stuff, and he was great in Point Break because that was the part he was playing. He was playing a plank who rides a plank. That was what he was doing.
Right.
The point at which he all starts to fall apart is when you stick him in Much Ado About Nothing, and he's supposed to be a Shakespearean actor. Of course he can't do. He's Keanu Reeves. Or you dip him in Die and say he's Prince Siddhartha, and of course he isn't because it's Keanu Reeves. So it's horses for courses.
Wasn't he Dracula as well?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, he's in Dracula a lot less than one would suspect he was when they were shooting it. The fact that his character is so slim in Dracula would lead one to suspect, brackets, allegedly, that there was much more filmed and that they didn't put it in because maybe it didn't quite fit. Was that that got around the legality of it, didn't it?
But I mean, like, his English accent was appalling. I mean, has there ever been any cases where they like film it? Like,
So's mine, though.
Yes, I know, but you weren't in Dracula, were you? Oh, you were that bat hanging upside down, weren't you?
I haven't seen it.
That white, gangly-looking thing in the corner. But I mean, has there ever been a case where they like put someone in like a film like that? Obviously, Keanu Reeves was cast to sort of make it go at the American box office. So do they leave more of him in America and take him out over here because everybody can see straight through his accent? There
have been different cuts of movies in which people's voices have been redubbed and people, characters have been taken down between the American release and the English release. Incidentally, strange enough, here's a spooky coincidence because that's exactly true of The Heretic, which we're going to be looking at later on in the cult movie spot. That is weird. But no, generally they feel that in America, if you talk like you've got a mouthful of soot, then they think that sounds like an English accent, and that's all they really care about is that, over there.
Have you been to America? You have, haven't you?
Yeah.
Everyone you speak to does an English accent, don't they?
Very badly.
Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah. And everyone you speak to, you say hello, they go, "Are you Australian?" No, not Australian at all. I mean, perhaps you could overdub some of the voices, Mark. There might be a career for you there, because of course you sound. Listen to Mark say something, and everybody listen. It's Eric Clapton. Go on, just say it in your normal voice.
God bless you, Mary Poppins.
So it's Eric Clapton, isn't it?
It is Eric Clapton.
It is. He's got exactly the same voice as Eric Clapton. Another weird thing that I'm talking about, weird things that happened. I mean, this is something that happened to me, and this never happens. I got a double album out today, and I pulled the record out, and it was the right one first time. Now, that never happens, does it? That's like dropping your toast, and it landing butter side up. Never happens, that, is it? What a fascinating man I am. Pretty weird week so far. Possibly due to the full moon on Monday, and the full moon traditionally a time when all manner of head-the-balls are abroad, and not just in Tossa de Mar or playing in Serie A. And I can tell you this now, although I didn't want to mention it at the time so as not to encourage any other nutters to come out of the woodwork, which is a dead giveaway. In any case, maybe if you weren't a nutter, you wouldn't live in the woodwork. How many of your family live behind the skirting board? I mean, outside Lard's family, we're not talking about normal people with cardigans and Black & Decker strimmers. Anyway, on Monday night, there were all manner of weirdos wandering the full moon illuminated streets and wandering into the reception area here at the Palace of Glittering Delights in Manchester. I mean, poor Ken on security felt like Nurse Ratchet in the Cuckoo's Nest. All these brain-addled zombies haranguing him. Anyway, he managed to get through to them that they really were in the wrong place and that Copacabana the musical was on at the Palace Theatre down the road. The last few remaining stragglers he fobbed off with the dates for the Radio 1 Roadshow.
So is that one of those records that's not available in any shops?
I think so, but I mean, most records I play seem to be not available in any shops. I mean, unless it's Michael Bolton or Simply Red, it doesn't seem to be available in the shops. Anyway, so
how much?
Can't find it in any shop. Oh, I'm flipping heck. Hang on a second. Well, you fill seamlessly then, Mark, while I say.
All right, that was, hold on a sec. That was the Melons, I think, on Heaven Records, Fire Engine Girl. It's a 3-track. I'll just repeat the information. I haven't got the address here. It's a flexi disc and it's got a fanzine with it as well. We don't know how much it costs as yet.
You're a bit good at this, aren't you? You're coming in to wade in and be much better than me on it, because you're doing the show for 2 weeks, aren't you?
Yep.
I was going to say you're doing the show for 2 weeks next
week. I'm sure it seemed like it.
So what have you got lined up? All manner of exciting things?
Yeah, we've got The Who are playing live in session. Mm-hmm. That's not quite true, but I just I thought you'd point that out.
Well, no, I think people can probably judge that one for themselves, Mark.
Why wouldn't they?
Well, no, they might do, yeah.
No, we have got some great bands on. We've got the Headcoats, Oasis and Breed live in session next week.
Right.
At separate times.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And the week after, we've got Linus, the Boo Radleys and the Auteurs all playing.
Nice one. Well, I wouldn't bank on it at the same time. We thought we were going to have Killing Joke and Primal Stones at different times last night, but it turned out to be the same time. So, I mean, like, what about it? I mean, like, it seems to be every time you turn on the radio, it's chocker with comedians, isn't it? Taking our jobs. You don't see me touring the country playing clubs with putting some gramophones on the stage.
But you put the odd joke in your show.
Well, when? You show me a time when we've had a gag on this show.
The odd joke.
The odd
joke. Which isn't the same as a regular joke, is it?
No, it certainly isn't. So, I mean, are you all revved up for it? I mean, do you like DJing?
Well, I've never actually driven, if you know what I mean. I've never actually played the records myself. I've done all the chat in between and nodded to someone else to play them. Yeah. And I've never learned how to play records. That's why I've got a CD player at home, because I've got loads of vinyl, obviously. But
it's a doddle, that. It's just like driving a car, although it doesn't move, and without obviously like the speed trap ramifications of any of those things.
Well, thanks for mentioning that, because you know I'm banned at the moment.
Oh God, what a faux pas! I can't believe that.
Why are you banned?
For speeding.
And kids, don't do that at home. But then it's difficult speeding at home, isn't it? Because you can't get unless you've got a very long haul.
Well, unless you've got one of those houses with one of those 5-mile limit signs outside.
True.
Which only the Queen's got, really, I suppose.
Yes, definitely. Now, listen, I mean, you are going to do, after that, you're doing a full sort of national comedy tour. And I mean, like, have you got the act all worked out, or are you leaving it to chance when you go?
No, well, I've got it all worked out, but I tend to do different stuff every night. Like, you're a DJ, and you've got, you worked out what you do in the show, but you play different records each night, don't you?
Yeah.
So, that's just the worst analogy I can think of off the top of my head.
I mean, it'd be great if we didn't, wouldn't it? Because you could just, like, make a tape of it, like, last October, and it would still be running.
But then so could a stand-up, couldn't they? Just show a video.
Yeah.
Every night.
Well, that's the good thing, though. I mean, you don't have to change it. You're playing a different
just hope that there's a bloke with a bad shirt on in the front row and just do a joke about him and play it every night.
And get away with it. And Sean Locke's on with you as well.
Sean Locke, he's the best comedian in this country.
Well, now, I was going to ask
you... It's a bit bad for me having him as my support.
I was going to ask you about this. I mean, like, when you're a band and you have a support band, you just turn it up louder, and if they're good, you sabotage their act, don't you, Mark? I mean, you've played in many.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If the support band are better than you sabotage their. Not that I've ever been in a band better than any band in the whole world, but like you unplug half the PA, or you like detune the guitars or something like that, and So I mean, what do you do? Because if he's funnier than you, there's no way around it, is there?
No, but I think if people are coming to a comedy, it doesn't really matter where it comes from, does it? And so I'm giving him the legwork, really. Get them laughing, then they'll be in a good mood by the time I come on.
Right. It's like that whole Woody Allen thing in Annie Hall or whatever it is, in which he has to go on at the Democratic convention. He has to go on after the other comedian, and he's starting off, and there's another comedian, and she says, "Oh, you're on next." He's like, "I can't go on. They're all laughed out. They've laughed. They've now laughed out."
Oh, that happens a lot, yeah.
They've just finished
when I'm on it, anyway.
I tell you what, I've had a nasty letter about you, as well. Yes, because you were saying about Backbeat. We were discussing Backbeat and saying I thought it was too long. I mean, your actual words, and forgive me if I'm misquoting you, say, "Come on, have the hemorrhage," and let's get it over.
I didn't think it was too long. It was too long for me. I didn't, possibly wasn't too long for the person who wrote the letter. That's the assumption I'm making now.
Are you being all diplomatic now, aren't you? Because you've got.
Well, I can only speak personally. I can only use my own opinions, can't I? I can't say, well, there might be a bloke. Where's this bloke from who wrote in, or a woman?
I've lost the letter.
Well, there might be a bloke from an unspecified town who thinks it's the right length.
Right.
I think it's the right length.
Right, there you go.
For you it is, you see, and this bloke.
What a fabulous potpourri of varying views, that's balanced.
How many listeners do you get?
On this show? Oh, I don't know, I've not counted them.
See, only 2 have disagreed with me. And one of them's, you probably didn't hear that show, did you?
No.
So only one of the actual bona fide listeners has disagreed with me.
Right.
The rest, a tacit agreement, I'd say.
I think, isn't it good when thrusting debate ends in a conclusion? And I think that's always really rewarding.
What an interesting man I am.
Yes, yeah. I mean, so you've been following the South African elections,
Well, I've had no choice today. Every show you turn... Even what's that terrible show with Ross King? Well, any show with Ross King, anyway. But the one
the other morning, top of the morning.
I had an African band on today for I suppose some apparent reason, but it wasn't like he'd always been a member of the ANC and battling away.
Right. And apparently printing 9 million ballot papers tonight, extra on. So we've all got the John Bull printing outfits out. So. Right, you're not going to say that, right?
Oh, no, I will. Hey, it's interesting you should say John Bull then, Mark. Because,
I thought this was...
Because I've been preparing the shows for next week. I've been, chatting with people who are going to be on and stuff like that, and I was talking to CP Lee. You know CP Lee?
I do.
Who was on your show
He was
as
on
well,
the answer, teaching you how to make Bob Dylan.
But he told me, and I don't know if this is true, and I doubt it very much, but he swears this is true, that, John Bull is like the English character. Apparently the Swiss character is called Colin Tampon. He swears that's true.
Right, but take
it up with CP if you don't agree. I don't any of these letters say, no, it's not, and Backbeat is far too short. I don't know any of this.
Right, okay. I think that's very interesting. Right, what fascinating people CP Lee are. I mean, I thought you quite like some country music because, you're a big rockabilly fan as well. There's a lot of kind of country roots and things, aren't there? There's a kind of crossover area. Yeah,
I prefer black rock and roll, to be honest. I'd prefer, Little Richard to Johnny Cash.
Right.
So I might go to Little Richard's house.
Right, yeah. Oh, right.
Is it near here, though?
I don't know where it is, I don't know at all.
Macon.
Before that, it was Big Gay Hearth by the Lemonheads.
I've turned into Lard, haven't I?
Well, I don't this is a problem, of course, you'll have to get used to next week because, you have to get used to the interjections of the hapless boy Lard, you see. I mean, you might be able to get your own act together, but then, someone will say, hey, fancy it, bro.
Hey, I was talking to Cindy Crawford.
And all that, yeah. Did she mention me and all that?
Say again.
So, yes, the rule, there are two rules. One is to, you can usually, well, there are three rules. One of them is to say, to leave a pause like this, and then say, Blummerneck, lad. The second rule is to ignore him totally. And the third rule is that, like, if you're wondering where his little addled mind is leading, it will always end with a mention of his bottom. It will always end with arse or a comedy farting noise he does with his hands. And that's the only place his gags ever end, you see. And
Maybe
so,
I could play Lard myself and just know when I'm going to be interrupting. See you again.
So you see, now, why didn't I think of that?
That was Eric Clapton doing Lard, wasn't
That was the pause, that. Yeah, it was. There you go. See. Right, anyway, what was the competition, Mark Kermode, last time we were on? It was Spinal Tap, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so...
hang on a second.
You're doing a pause?
Hang on.
I'll keep rustling.
Keep rustling. I mean, we're going to do this. We may as well do it
That's
proper.
it, bro.
Right. Here we go.
Okay, so pull out 5 correct answers there, please.
Right, there's one. Is this right? None More Black, is that right?
None More Black, that's right,
None More
Mark.
Black, that's from Matthew Rossiter in Bristol, and he's got his nice card with lots of pictures of Spinal Tap on and
Very
stuff. How much blacker? None more black, which
That's right
is
again.
more right.
None more
You
right.
can't be none more right than what he
No,
said.
one says none more black and one says none more black.
Oh, carry on.
That's more right, okay. fine.
So Sean Cook from Orpington in Kent, and the great thing he's written is, this is correct, which is always always handy in a competition, isn't it, really? I'm going to put that on
So he
Spot the
got it in
Ball
the
this
box.
week.
Yeah, I'll spot the ball. Yeah.
On the pools or something. Yeah. And then it says, I'm over 15 years old and would like to win something for a change.
Right,
So
yeah.
I think he deserves to.
I know the feeling.
How's it, bro? Who's this one from?
You see, it's as difficult for him as me.
Well, first of all, I thought it was from Mark Radcliffe, because it says, Mark, you know...
I did send one, actually, because I'm over 15 and I
Yeah.
want to win something, and it is
Your name
correct.
is Sean Cook.
I did, yeah.
Lee Tonks in Suffolk.
Lee Tonks. We want to know his name, not what he does. Right, go on.
Well, there you go, Lee Tonks, he's one. Helen Newbert from Sheffield. And Tristan Munger. We want to know his name, not what he does.
That well-known anagram from...
From Reading in Berkshire. And I think it should be, I'm from Reading, I deserve to win something.
So deserve to win something.
Correct,
So
right.
that's it. So Spinal Tap stuff coming. And ask us about this week's competition.
What about this week's competition?
Well, as The Heretic is the worst film ever made, we're not doing a competition on it because we just didn't think it was worth the postage.
Right,
So
fair
there'll be a
enough then.
competition next week. Next week we're going to do Oni Baba, an undiscovered 1964 black and white weird Japanese classic. And then in 2 weeks' time, ladies and gentlemen, the King of Comedy is finally upon us. We have cleared the rights.
Right, okay. And what a coincidence that you're doing the King of Comedy, and the presenter of the show that night will be...
Lard.
Fancy, bro.
Mark Radcliffe, missing you already.